Greetings wargamers, today I'm going to show you how to make shipping containers for your gaming tables. Shipping containers are great terrain for wargames. They're portable, so you can place them anywhere on your table. They're stackable, which means that you can create really complex structures with them. And they're great for blocking line of sight. We're going to be using really simple tools and materials to build these containers today, so let's head over to the bench and get started. To build the core of our container, we're going to be using foam board. Now for this example, I'll be using 5mm foam board, but the thickness really doesn't matter. It just means that you may have to adjust the sizing of your container to match the thickness of your foam board. Now to begin, all we're going to do is we're going to take our two end caps, which are 5.5cm square, and we're also going to take our two side pieces, which are 5.5cm tall by 11.5cm long. All we're going to do is we're going to take some PVA glue and we're going to run it along the ends of both of our side pieces, and then we'll be placing them down onto the ends like this and putting the other end on top. So we'll do that now. So to begin, all we do, take a bead of glue and run it along both ends. I'm just going to use the roof piece to keep this elevated off my work surface. And we do it on both sides, like so. And then take one of the end caps, take both of these side pieces and glue them down. And then give them a few seconds just to hold in place, and then take your other end piece and fit that onto the end, like so. All you need to do then is just wait for this to dry. To speed things up, I'm going to apply a few drops of super glue on the inside corners just so that we can get to work faster. And then I'll come back and we'll add the roof. With the main part of our box complete, now we can add the roof in exactly the same way. We're just going to run a small bead of glue around the top, like so. I'm only using a thin bead of glue here because I'm going to be securing the corners with super glue. But if you're not going to be using super glue, then use slightly more PVA. And then we just take our top piece and fit it in place. Now what I like to do here is flip it upside down and then work the corners into place, apply a little bit of pressure, and then come in and just flood the corners with super glue. And it just helps tack it in place and hold it there while the PVA dries. And just do this in all the corners and then wait for it to dry. Once your wall pieces are dry, it's time to move on to the cladding. Now at this stage, if you've not been exactly precise with your cuts, you may find that you end up with gaps. That's not a problem, because we're going to be hiding all these crimes with the next step. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some coffee stirrers, like so, just clip off one of the ends, and then we're going to start adding them on all of the edging. So on the top, the bottom and sides on all 5 faces. The only thing that you need to be aware of here is the order in which you do it. So we'll use the end cap as an example. If you start by running a piece of coffee stirrer from top to bottom on one side, make sure to go over to the other side and go top to bottom on there before adding the cross pieces, and do the same on the back. So we're just going to start here, and to do this, all we're going to do is we're going to roughly measure out how long it needs to be, then run some super glue along our coffee stirrer, and then just come in and glue on the stirrer, holding it in place for a few seconds until it dries, or if you've got activator spray, you can give it a quick spray with that. But it should dry relatively quickly, like so. and then give it a minute or so to set up fully before just snipping the end off like that. While I wait for this piece to dry, I'm also going to attach the opposite side. So again, we're just going to roughly measure how much stirrer we need and then run a bead of glue along it and put it in place. I'll spin this one around so I can see it, get it in place properly and not glue my fingers together, and then like that. And then I'll wait for both of these to dry for a moment before snipping off the ends. And with the ends snipped off, now it's time to add the cross pieces. To do that, we can take the piece that we just snipped off, lay it down across like so, and then take a pen or a marker and just mark a line where it intersects. And come back in with your clippers. Move this out of the way so you can see. Come back in with your clippers and snip away the excess. Bring your container back in and test. It's a little bit too long, so we'll just snip a tiny amount off. If it is too long, just work in tiny increments. You can always take a little bit more off, but you can't add any back on. So like that, and then it'll place in like that. So we'll just run our bead of glue along the foam board and then pop the stirrer in place. For the bottom pieces, I like to set the container down so I can get the stirrer level with the ground, like that. And then all you need to do is do exactly the same for the top piece. So we just come in and roughly measure where it'll come up to, and then just snip away the excess, like so, trying to be careful not to glue ourselves, and then test. Still ever so slightly too long, so we'll just snip a tiny amount away, and perfect. So now, because on this side we are doing it on the exposed foam at the centre of the foam board, I'm going to apply the glue directly to the stirrer, because the solvents in super glue can dissolve the foam. So if we apply it directly to the foam, it may dissolve before the stirrer has a chance to grip. So I'm just going to place that in, like so, spin it around so I can see it properly, and give it a good press, like that. And with the end done, then we'll work on the sides. And the process is exactly the same. So we want a piece of stirrer along each end, and along the top and the bottom. Doing exactly the same we did before, making sure to work in the same way. So because we've gone top to bottom on our corner pieces on the end, we'll also go top to bottom on our corner pieces on the sides, and then run a piece between them. So I'll do that now, and then we'll come back. And with all the corner pieces added, it's time to move on to adding the corrugation. And to do that, we're going to be using corrugated card. Now when you're doing this, you want to be careful of the orientation of the corrugation. And what we're going to do is we're going to have it running vertically up the side, and then carry that direction on along the top and down the other side. So all we need to do to start is take our ruler and just measure out the size that we're going to need. So we want 11.5 there by about 5 centimeters. And then what we'll do is we'll flip our card over, take a permanent marker or a highlighter, something without a hard nib, and then we'll just measure out 11.5, so we'll measure out to there, and then measure down it would be 5 centimeters, so we'll give ourselves a little bit extra so that we can trim it down more easily, and then just mark it out. Take a pair of scissors and just cut it out like so. Now, the reason I've left about 1/2 centimetre around each edge, so it's going to be too big to begin with. The reason for that is so that we can slowly start cutting it down. And what I like to do is, if you can see here, the side where we've cut has crimped and flattened a little bit. So I'm going to flip it over and use this side that's flattened to cut away the excess material. So I'm going to line it up in the corner and start on the side, and I'm going to use the corrugations themselves to count how many I need to cut out. So start with just one, like so, and see how we do for size. Still a little bit too big, but it's almost there. You can see it's getting stuck a little bit, so you know that it's nearly there. Helps if you don't knock everything over. So I'll just pop it off and trim ever so slightly on the other side as well. So just come in and trim it a little off that side, and then we should fit. Yeah, that fits the width, and then do the same for the length. So just peel up the edge, and then all I'm going to do is take my marker pen and just make a rough mark on each side where it needs to go, and then slowly creep up on that line. So start by taking what I know will be too little off, like so, and then place it back. Still not enough off, so we go back in, take another small amount off, like that, go back in, and we just keep doing that until we reach a size that we're happy with. So I can see now that this line isn't quite straight. We're almost in place up on this end, but not the other. So I'm going to trim this to size. Once your piece is cut out, it's time to add it on. So to do this, all we're going to do is do one final test fit to make sure everything lines up nicely. And we've got the panel orientated correctly. And then we'll just pop it off gently. And then you can use PVA glue for this, but I find it quicker to just add some super glue into the corners, and then add some super glue along the edges and in the centre. And then all you do is take your piece and pop it into place like so, working it down into the corners and then making sure it gets in there all the way around, like so. Flatten it down, and there we are. Now, another thing you can do is take a piece of coffee stirrer with a rounded end and just run it along the ridges, the lower part of the ridges, to just help redefine some of that corrugation that might have been lost as you were cutting it and pressing it. And this will just help bring those lines back in, so that when you paint it, the paint really picks it up and gets in all those recesses, and it looks really good. So just go along anywhere it's flattened out a bit and just run your coffee stirrer to plump it back up. And then you do it on all sides, and you can start to see how the container is coming together. Now I've left the one side blank so that we can add some doors, and we'll do that next. To do the door, we start by adding the corner pieces in exactly the same way that we did on the other end, and then we take the cross piece and measure it out to length as we did before, but this time we're going to find the centre, and the length is 4.5, so we want about 2¼ centimetres. So I'm just going to bring that down to the bench and measure that out. That's 1, 2, and then about 1/4. About there. Like so. And then we're going to come in and snip this in half. So with our two pieces, when we put them in place, you can see that it provides a break to represent the door, and then we can do that for both bottom and top. As you can see, I've added the bottom and top pieces, and what I've also done is add 2 more support pieces between the top and bottom. So we have a seam line running down the centre of this end, and these will form the basis of our doors. The next step is to add the corrugation, and to do this I've just got a little scrap piece, and all I'm going to do is exactly the same as we did for the side. I'm going to start cutting it down to size. So start by trimming a rough width and taking a rough length like so, and then refining this for both sides so we've got some corrugation. So I'll do that and come back. And with the corrugation added to those panels, the final step is to add some handles. Now to do this, we're just going to be using small cocktail sticks. And all we're going to do is we're going to take our piece, line them up, and then come in with some clippers. After lining them up in the ridges of the corrugation, and snip them so that they overhang the corrugation just a little bit. You want them to be about halfway along the coffee stirrers, like that. And then do that 4 times and we'll glue them in place. And with those cocktail stick handles in place, the piece is complete. As you can see, it's a great looking piece. It'll look ideal on any sort of gaming table, from sort of middle of the 20th century all the way up to sci-fi. What I recommend doing if you're going to build a lot of these and want them all over your gaming table is build a few with these door sections to use as your sort of hero pieces, and have them in line of sight so that when you're moving your models past you can see the fronts. But if you're going to be creating big dockyards with stacks and stacks of these, to do them as quickly as possible, I recommend doing both ends just blank with the corrugation, and then you can stack them in such a way so it looks like the back end is facing where the play is happening, so you don't have to do quite as much work and it makes them much quicker to build. And there we have it, simple and easy techniques to build great looking terrain. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like below because it really helps us out, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. We release new wargaming content every Friday, and you can subscribe by clicking here, or if you want to keep watching, you can watch last week's video by clicking right here. And until next time, happy wargaming.